Oh, hey, they released the restricted and banned announcement early. Let's see, effective immediately with the November 18th, January 22nd. Oh, Summer Blooms banned. Yeah, we thought that was go. Wait a second. Hey guys, so I know I haven't been super active on updating with Zoo. I actually was trying to come up with a thing for an Eldrazi, how to beat the Eldrazi deck, but I decided to wait until the newer version with Oath was released. Although there's a very good post on it on MTG Salvation, the Modern Zoo sub, if you want to check that thread out, where I basically go in depth about how to beat it and why it's actually a good matchup for us and it's good for the metagame for us. But even though that wasn't ready and I wasn't ready perfectly to put that up there, I felt as if the announcement that Twin being banned was big enough to warrant the fact that at 3:30 a.m. I should make a quick video talking about it. Now, what I want to talk about in this video is how we're going to deal with that change of things in the modern meta. But I also want to start off by just expressing my displeasure at Twin's ban and the ramifications of it. I'm not a huge fan of decks that are just clogging up the meta and aren't allowing diversity. And as painful as it is for me to say it, Pod was one of those decks. Pod did not let aggro decks exist. It forced a mid-range or kind of grindy game, and even then it was the best at that. Where it is now with the Asbin Company deck, which is the spiritual successor of the Pod deck, it's a lot better. At least I mean for the meta, but you could make the same argument for the Twin ban, which it honestly might just be that they were just trying to shake it up for the PT season. But the truth is, I don't think that applies. Pod was definitely strangling the meta. Splinter Twin is strangling the meta, but in a different way. It was stopping some really unfair strategies from really starting to take over. I know everyone and their mom's now freaking out, saying like, "Oh, well, now if you like the race, Grizzlebrand, Infect, and Twin, or I'm sorry, Tron, this is the format for you." I don't necessarily think it's going to be that bad. I think the meta will definitely shift, and some decks will go up in power, and some will go down in power. Um, but the thing that I don't like is that Twin was sort of in a unique place in the modern meta in the fact that it kind of could play like a control deck until it put out its combo win. Um, it's very much like Sneak and Show in Legacy, how it played, and definitely that was powerful, and it was. I don't think it's necessarily a control deck. I shouldn't say that, but it played a all right version of one, and it was one of Modern's few that was currently like that. Modern has a distinct lack of just all around good cards that can be played to help a lot of matchups rather than just one or two. Like things like, by the way, what I'm talking about is like Abrupt Decay, for example. That guy is a great all-around card. Another good one is like Kolaghan's Command. That is an also good all-around card. Um, I'm not trying to argue that Brainstorm or Force of Will or Daze should be in the meta. I'm just saying that there's a distinct lack of those good cards, which is why there's a distinct lack of not good cards, all around good cards, and thus there's a distinct lack of control. Uh, and I think Twins results that they were putting up a lot of results was distinctly because of that. If there was more incentive to, let's say, play blue white control or a blue black control or any of those combinations of colors, not just blue red and twin basically, and choose another color, probably black, because that gives you access to K command. Um, if there was more choices in modern, I think you would have seen that Twin would have been less of the modern meta, because people would have chosen different flavors of that sort of interactivity. And that's, I think, the distinct reason as to why Twin is all over the place. Not necessarily because of power level, although it was a powerful deck, but because it was the only deck that you could choose, really, if you wanted an interactive blue deck. Um, and without it, there's sort of almost like a policeman of the format that's gonna disappear, and that's definitely gonna usurp the balance that we're currently seeing now. Whether it's gonna usurp the balance to be like distinctly a meta of either going wide or going tall, um, I don't know. I can't predict that. But I can predict certain things, and I can predict a couple things of how this will impact the format. You will see more Tron. Most certainly, you will see more Tron. You will also see more Infect and Affinity. I don't think to the back-breaking levels that everyone's assuming it is. Affinity definitely gains a very, very strong foothold because of the Eldrazi deck that's currently being touted as one of the better decks of Modern that you could play. It has an alright Jund matchup, and Twin isn't there to kind of keep bolting, tapping its stuff down. So Affinity's in a pretty good spot. With Infect being in a close second, Red deck wins or burn. I don't think it really changes very much of Twin's ban. It's still alright. And I mean, still tier 1, but it's not like killer. And I think Tron's going to be still like kept in its place by the sheer amount of the Eldrazi decks that are currently around. I think Tron will uptick because of the lack of Twin, but still be beaten by the Eldrazi decks. Now there's also a secondary effect that's going to happen because of this, and it probably is going to be short term, but it may translate into a long term. And that's you're going to see an uptick in Grixis Control, and you're going to see an uptick in Grixis Delver. And the specific reason why you're going to see an uptick in those specific genres is because these staples that the Twin players have, the ones that are probably currently claiming about how they're going to quit, they're going to sleep a couple days on it, feel an inkling of magic, and start trying to play some other decks, that's what they're going to play. So those are the decks that you're going to run into in Modern. So with that in mind, here that's your overall Modern metagame. Basically everything that's you see right now. That's going to include things like Junk, Jund, Affinity, Burn. I was going to say Twin. That's how used to it I am. Let me see what else. You're going to play Merfolk, Zoo, Infect, maybe Boggles, probably not all that much, but you'll be seeing an uptick in Tron, Eldrazi, Delver, and Grixis Control. I think that's going to be what your meta is going to look like. And as such, you can change a couple things. You'll notice I've done some drastic things. I've cut Qasali Prime Mages completely from my board, or completely from my main deck. I used to have 2 in here, and instead I just cut it completely out of here, replace it with Scavenger News, basically. And my main reasoning for that is, look, there's not very many good decks to have the Qasali Pride Mage in against. Yes, it helps you win the Goi 4s with the Exalted. Yes, it's a pretty good beater when it needs to. But the truth is, it usually got sided out against a lot of matchups. And the only good reason I had for I cut it down from 3 to 2 after Twin started disappearing even a little bit. And that was when Twin was just not super prevalent in the meta, but it was still there. I cut it down because the only matchup it's awesome in now is Affinity, and everything else it's still got its functions, but less so. So yes, occasionally some rogue decks will show up, like Storm or something, where you're gonna be like, man, I wish I had that card in my deck. But it's not going to come up to an extent that I think is really all that big, and it allows me to a little bit change the functionality of my deck. Another thing that you'll see I cut the Luxodon Smiters. The truth is, Luxodon Smiter, while a good card, Junk is doing arguably better than Jund because of the Eldrazi deck, and is probably the current top deck. And as such, there's only not even 4 cards, 3 cards that trigger the discard on on the on the Luxodon Smiter's discard clause, and that would be Liliana the Veil. And while it's good, I'm not going to play a card in my deck to counter 3 cards in someone else's deck. It's got to counter more than that. It's got to counter at least 5, because that's when at least one of those will show up. And Jund, yes, still plays 5. It still plays probably around 3 Liliana and 2 K commands. But with Twin disappearing, it's less relevant. I don't need to do it because I'm seeing less counter spells. I'm also seeing less random discard spells. So I'm not gonna have I'm not gonna put the Smiters in my main deck, at least not yet. Currently, Woolly Thoktar is taking the place of where the Smiters would be. And the reason why I've switched it to Woolly Thoktars is they're 4/5s. That's really the only reason. They can block and trade with Tassigurs. They're bigger, so they actually are relevant against these Eldrazi's that are coming out. Plus, they can help me race, and that's the big part, is if I land this, I can race against things like Tron. I can race against things like Infect, maybe. So, the racing is the main reason. So, in my head, since I'm not seeing counter spells anymore, which was the reason to play Luxodon Smiter, honestly, is because of the fact that you can't be tempo lost on your turn 2, turn 3 play against a blue deck, since you're not going to be seeing as many blue decks. This is Woolly Thoktar is just a straight upgrade. When you put a Woolly Thoktar in play, and when you put a Luxodon Smiter in play, they're both vanilla creatures. They're both just one's 4/4, one's 5/4. So Woolly Thoktar gets the nod here. And it's also better off of a Collected Company. It's just 1 more point of damage. So Woolly Thoktar is gonna get the nod here over Luxodon Smiter, at least until I see the uptick in Delver and Grixis control. If it's as big as I think it will eventually get, it'll probably go back to Luxodon Smiter. But for now, Woolly Thoktar. The other thing I'm bringing in is Brimaz, or as I like to call him, the Oreo King. Oreo King allows me to actually have a better game against aggro and have a better game against mid-range. And the specific reason for that is if they kill my Brimaz after attacks, at least I still have 1 token. It still leaves me with the body behind, and that helps me beat out the 1-for-1 strategies that you're going to find in things like occasionally the more processor version of the Eldrazi deck, as well as Junk and Jund. It'll still give me a little bit of stuff, and for what it's worth, he hits the same hard as a Smiter does. He still gets in for 4 points of damage. The only difference is with his Vigilance and the token's Vigilance, I at least have blockers against aggro, which is relevant, and I will also have more ways to just keep on attacking. So Brimaz gets better with the lack of Twin, because again, that can't be countered clause is less relevant. So I've gone up a little bit on the 8 drops, and if you notice, yeah, I've replaced the Smiters completely with Brimaz and Woolly Thoktar. I'd have 3 Brimaz, honestly, if the legendary creature thing wasn't such an issue with it. And then I replaced 1 Pride Mage with the Scavenging Ooze, and that leaves 1 spot open. Actually, yeah, it leaves 1 spot open, so I put a Birds of Paradise in there. That was better. Actually, I left 2 spots open because I took out a Dramaka's Command from the main, moved to the sideboard. But that's your full 60, is I put a Birds in there because now I'm a little bit more top heavy. I want to get to this Collected Company a little bit more because of the junk decks. So that's my main board strategy. Voice is still good. Voice still does exactly what it needs to do. It's still the important thing to notice is Voice is actually good against 2 different types of decks, not just the blue-red decks, but also the red-black decks, or just the even black-white decks. Basically, rock decks. It's also very good against. So Voice is still relevant here, and actually Voice gets better when you're using Brimaz too, because of the tokens help each other out. Now from sideboard, to just go into it briefly here, the sideboard's changed too, and the reason why the sideboard's changed completely is you'll notice this is my only way to get rid of a enchantment, and this might not even stay. I'll shift this into the cards that I know I want core, and the cards that I know that are up in the air for me. Let's see here. So, okay, here's the split. I've got 10 cards that I'm like, definitely know that I want, and then I've got some more cards that can flex around and change depending on how the meta is going to change up. And the reason why these cards are core is I want Blood Moons, I want them for the Eldrazi matchup, and I want them for the Tron matchup, and I want them for the Jund and Junk matchups. And maybe even the Grixis control matchups. Maybe. But the main reason that I want those for those matchups is because they help me kill their lands, and not even kill their lands, not even a permanent kill lands any days. All of those decks have ways to get around it, but they delay the deck, and they force removal on the Blood Moon if they're going to be removal instead of my creatures, so it allows me to put a more efficient clock on the board, or extended clock, I should say. Sigarda is a pretty obvious thing. I'm bringing it in against the junk deck. That's where she shines. That's where she's the best at, and that's where she stays in. Elspeth comes in against any deck that I just basically need more of a clock against. And honestly, I might even be running 2 of her and 1 less Sigarda. We'll see how things go. And she just comes in anytime I need a clock. So that would also be against things like Jund, or even things like the Eldrazi deck, which I just need a better clock against. So if anything, I'm just gonna, if I look at my what I'm doing and I'm going, I need to race, she comes in. Bonfire of the Damned comes against pretty much any aggro deck out there. Tokens, anything that's going wide, Bonfire comes in against. Core Firewalkers are back in. I didn't like them, but the reason why they're back in is against the burn matchup, as since I think there's going to be an uptick in burn, I wanted to shift from my Kitchen Finks back to Core Firewalkers because that's where they're going to be relevant. Yes, I know Palmatory Impact, or whatever it's called, is Reality Leak, or whatever the hell it's called, is a way to kill Core Firewalker. If a burn player spends 2 mana on their turn 2, turn 3 to get rid of my Core Firewalker, and it doesn't hit to my face, I'm not that upset about it. And Thalia is also coming against the Rock decks, the Tron decks, the occasional combo decks that you might run into, the weirder combo decks that are going to show up a lot because of the unpoliced meta. That's where you're going to get your Thalias in for. As well as the Junk and Jund decks, because they play a lot of spells. Stony Silence comes in against the Tron decks, the Affinity decks, as well as the Heartless, or not the Heartless, but the Eldrazi decks in general. It's just a good way to shut them down, and since I have no real need for enchantment hate anymore, Stony Silence gets the nod over it. Now, I don't know if I want to play 1 Stony Silence or 2. Probably 2, honestly, but that's just what I'm talking about the second one for. Aethersworn Canonist is sort of just thrown in here because I feel like there's going to be more Living End, maybe. There might be more things like quick discard to go into Grizzlebrand, so I want to play the Aethersworn Canonist. It's good against the Infect matchup as well. Fracturing Gust is for the Affinity matchup. I think Affinity is, after these bans, is the best deck that you can play in Modern right now. It's got a pretty good Tron matchup, pretty good Affinity matchup, very good Eldrazi matchup, very good Tron matchup, very good Elsewise matchup. It's just got very good matchups across the board. And then I've got a Grim Lavamancer against more aggro decks and Dromoka's Command because I decided that, not because of the enchantment thing, don't get me wrong, it's because I needed a little bit more for the burn matchup because these 4 were not just quite enough. I wanted to have it at 5. Plus I needed some more stuff for like Merfolk or different aggro matchups, maybe Infect, for example. So this is just sort of a catch-all answer to bring in. That changes if either burn is not necessarily as important, or or the aggro decks are less important, then, you know, Jamaka's Command can change it into something else. So again, these 5 cards are pretty flexible. These ones are the ones that I want to stick with. Overall, what does the Tron ban, or not the Tron, Twin ban do for us? It doesn't help us by any stretch of the imagination. It actually probably makes us worse. And the reason why is one of the major decks that we can play against is gone. We're very good against blue decks, and with this gone, we're less good. And with things like Tron maybe getting better, Infect getting better, Affinity getting better, we're also a little less good. And that's kind of a shame. That's not a good, super great place for us. So we'll see how the meta evolves and adapts, but I think this ban was probably a mistake, and I think we'll probably see it rightened soon, or at least maybe something more blue be printed. I know I read a tweet recently from Aaron Forsyth saying that he's looking now at Jace the Mind Sculptor even, as well as like Ancestral Visions and Sword of the Meek, because Twin's out of the format. And I think that might have been the real reason why they banned it, is because they can't power up blue-based strategies without powering up Twins. So rather than have to worry about figuring out some way to tiptoe around Twin, they just got rid of it so they can power up blue-based strategies as a whole. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping we see with the next set in, I guess, Shadows over Innistrad. Anyways, guys, I hope this video was a little enlightening for you. I know the news is huge, so I thought I'd make a news video talking about what we can do for this and just point you in maybe a good direction to start in. And I hope my zoo crew is still able to do well after this. And thanks for watching, guys. Remember, like, subscribe, comment if you want to talk to me about it. I want to talk about this kind of thing, where the meta is going, as well as you can always talk to me in the zoo thread on MTG Salvation. As always, guys, remember to feed your animals.